Most women think they know what an obsessed man looks like. They're usually wrong, because the man who's truly obsessed with you rarely says it. He doesn't flood your phone with messages. He doesn't constantly confess his feelings. And sometimes, he even looks like he's pulling away. That's exactly why so many women walk away from the very man who can't stop thinking about them. Real obsession isn't loud. It's psychological. It quietly changes the way a man thinks, remembers, reacts, and behaves around you, even when he's trying not to show it. He starts noticing things no one else notices. He remembers details you forgot you ever mentioned. He rearranges parts of his life without realizing he's doing it. To everyone else, these behaviors seem ordinary. But once you know what to look for, they reveal something much deeper. The problem is, most women have been taught to look for obvious signs. Constant texting, grand romantic gestures, jealousy, endless compliments. But those aren't always the strongest indicators. Some of the biggest signs are almost invisible. In fact, one of the strongest signs looks exactly like disinterest. It's the reason countless women assume a man has lost interest, when he's actually becoming emotionally consumed by them. By the end of this video, you'll know the 7 silent signs that separate genuine obsession from ordinary attraction. And don't miss sign number 6. It's the one almost everyone misunderstands, and once you understand it, you'll never interpret a man's behavior the same way again. Sign number 1. He remembers the little things everyone else forgets. Most people think obsession begins with grand gestures. It doesn't. It begins with attention. The kind of attention that's so quiet, you might not even notice it at first. Think about this. Have you ever casually mentioned your favorite coffee? Only once. Then weeks later he orders it without asking? Or maybe you told him about a movie you loved as a child, and months later, he unexpectedly brings it up as if the conversation happened yesterday. Maybe you changed your hairstyle just a little. Nothing dramatic. You expected no one to notice. But somehow, he did. These moments may seem small, but they often reveal something much bigger. Because when someone occupies your thoughts, your brain starts treating details about them differently. Not because you're trying to memorize them, but because they naturally become important. It's a lot like your favorite song. You don't remember every lyric because you studied it. You remember it because you've heard it so many times that your mind holds onto it effortlessly. People can work the same way. The more someone stays on your mind, the more your brain quietly collects little pieces of who they are, without you even realizing it. That's why he remembers the snack you always order, the phrase you repeat without noticing, the song that reminds you of summer, the story about your childhood that you only mentioned once. To him, those aren't random facts. They're pieces of you. And when someone becomes emotionally invested, those small pieces begin to matter far more than they should. But here's something even more revealing. He doesn't just remember you. He notices you. Sometimes before anyone else does. You wear a different color. You seem a little quieter than usual. Your smile doesn't quite reach your eyes today. Most people would never notice. He somehow does. Not because he's analyzing you every second, but because paying attention has quietly become a habit. Have you ever heard someone ask, "Is everything okay?" before you even realize something felt off yourself? That kind of awareness rarely happens by accident. It usually comes from consistent attention over time. And that's what separates this from simple politeness. He's not only hearing your words, he's learning your patterns. He notices what makes you laugh, what drains your energy, what makes your eyes light up, what causes you to suddenly go quiet. Without realizing it, he's building a mental picture of who you are. And one day he surprises you. He brings up something you completely forgot saying. Maybe it was a dream you mentioned weeks ago, or a place you've always wanted to visit. And in that moment, you stop and think, wait, he actually remembered that? Because genuine attention has become surprisingly rare. Most conversations today are filled with distractions. People glance at their phones. They wait for their turn to speak. They forget what was said minutes later. So when someone consistently remembers the smallest things about you, it naturally stands out. Now, it's important not to jump to conclusions. Some people simply have excellent memories. Others are naturally thoughtful and observant. That's why this sign shouldn't be judged on one moment alone. Look for a pattern. Does he consistently remember details over weeks or months? Does he notice changes that other people miss? Does he recall things without trying to impress you? If the answer is yes, it often suggests that your presence doesn't end when the conversation does. Your words stay with him. Your habits stay with him, even after you've gone. Because when someone becomes mentally preoccupied with another person, their attention follows them. Not because they're forcing it, but because their mind keeps returning to the same person. And that's why remembering the little things isn't just a sweet gesture. Sometimes, it's one of the quietest signs that you're occupying far more space in his mind than you ever realized. Sign number 2. He always finds a reason to contact you. Have you ever looked at your phone and thought, why is he texting me about this? Maybe he sends you a funny meme. Maybe he asks a question he could have easily answered himself. Maybe he shares a random photo, a song, or a story that doesn't really need a reply. At first, these messages seem completely ordinary. But when they happen over and over again, they can reveal something much deeper. One of the quiet signs a man may be obsessed with you is that he always seems to find a reason to reach out. Notice the words here. A reason. Not necessarily a good reason. Sometimes the conversation starts with something so small that it almost feels unnecessary. Have you seen this movie? This reminded me of you. Guess what happened today? What are you doing? None of these messages are urgent. None of them are life-changing. In fact, they often have no real purpose at all. The real purpose isn't the question. It's the connection. He's looking for another chance to hear from you. Another chance to see your name appear on his screen. Another chance to keep you in his day, even if it's only for a few minutes. Think about the people you rarely think about. How often do you message them for no reason? Probably not very often. Most of us only contact those people when we actually need something. But when someone stays on your mind, the situation changes. Suddenly, almost anything becomes an excuse to start a conversation. You hear a song and think of them. You see a place they once mentioned. You remember a joke they laughed at. And before you know it, you're reaching for your phone. Not because you have to, because you want to. That's an important difference. Sometimes he'll even stretch out conversations longer than necessary. You answer his question. Instead of ending the chat, he asks another, then another. The conversation could have ended 5 minutes ago, but somehow it keeps going. He isn't just exchanging information. He's trying to spend a little more time with you, even if that time is through a screen. You may also notice that he responds surprisingly quickly whenever you message first. It's almost as if he was already waiting. Then, after the conversation slows down, a day or two later, he finds another reason to message you again. Not because anything important happened, simply because silence feels too long. Another thing to watch for is how he creates opportunities instead of waiting for them. Many people wait until there's a special occasion. A birthday, a holiday, a major event. But someone who can't stop thinking about you doesn't always wait for the perfect moment. He creates one. Maybe he sends you a picture of something funny. Maybe he asks for your opinion on something simple. Maybe he remembers a conversation from weeks ago and brings it back up. The topic itself isn't what matters. What matters is that he keeps opening the door for another conversation. Now, it's important to understand something. There's a difference between genuine interest and obsession. Someone who's interested enjoys talking to you. Someone who's becoming obsessed often struggles to let the connection fade. Interest is comfortable. If the conversation ends, they simply wait until another natural opportunity comes along. Obsession, however, often creates opportunities that didn't really exist before. Silence starts to feel uncomfortable, so they look for reasons, big or small, to reconnect. That doesn't always mean something unhealthy is happening. Sometimes it's simply the excitement of having someone constantly on your mind. The key is consistency. If he occasionally sends a random message, that doesn't mean much. Many friendly people do the same thing. But if he's always finding little excuses to reach out, if every few days there's another reason to talk, if he naturally keeps pulling the conversation back toward you, it may be because you're taking up far more space in his thoughts than he ever admits. The interesting part is that he may not even realize he's doing it. To him, sending that random message feels completely normal. Sharing that funny video feels natural. Asking that small question doesn't seem unusual. What he doesn't notice is that every excuse has the same destination. Because when someone can't stop thinking about another person, they don't always make dramatic moves. Sometimes they simply keep finding little ways to stay connected. One message becomes another. One conversation becomes another. One excuse becomes another. And before either of you realizes it, staying in touch has become less about the topic and more about never letting the connection disappear. Sign number 3. He watches before he acts. Not every man who becomes deeply obsessed rushes to make a move. In fact, many do the exact opposite. The stronger their feelings become, the more careful they become. Instead of acting first, they watch first. Have you ever noticed someone who seems interested, but never seems to be in a hurry? He doesn't immediately flirt. He doesn't instantly confess his feelings. He doesn't force every conversation to become romantic. Instead, he quietly pays attention, not because he's unsure you matter, but because you matter so much that getting it wrong feels risky. Before he compliments you, he notices what makes you smile. Before he opens up, he watches how you respond when other people become vulnerable. Before he invites you somewhere, he pays attention to whether you actually enjoy spending time with him. Every small reaction becomes information, not because he's playing games, but because he genuinely wants to understand you before taking the next step. Imagine trying to walk across a frozen lake. You wouldn't sprint. You'd test the ice first, then take another step, then another. People often behave the same way when someone becomes emotionally important to them. The more they care, the more carefully they move. That's why he may seem surprisingly patient. While other people rush to impress you, he's watching what actually makes you comfortable. He notices when a joke makes you laugh. He notices when a compliment makes you uncomfortable. He notices when your energy suddenly changes. And without saying anything, he quietly adjusts. Maybe he stops teasing because he realizes you don't enjoy it. Maybe he changes the way he texts because he notices you prefer shorter conversations. Maybe he chooses a different place to meet because he remembers where you seemed most relaxed. Most people never notice these adjustments. They only notice the final behavior. But the behavior changed because he was paying attention all along. Here's the interesting part. He may never tell you he's doing this. In fact, he probably doesn't even realize it himself. To him, it simply feels natural to slow down, to think before speaking, to notice before acting. That's because when someone occupies your mind, their opinion starts carrying more weight than you intended. Suddenly, you care a little more about making them smile. You think a little longer before sending that message. You replay conversations after they end, not because you're trying to impress them, but because they've quietly become important to you. Now, This doesn't mean every patient or thoughtful man is obsessed. Some people naturally move slowly in relationships. Others simply like to observe before making decisions. That's why this sign should never be viewed by itself. Look for a pattern. Does he consistently adjust his behavior based on your reactions? Does he seem to remember what makes you comfortable? Does every interaction feel like he's learning something rather than trying to impress you? If so, it may be because you're occupying much more space in his mind than he ever admits. Because when someone can't stop thinking about another person, they don't just act. They observe, they learn, they adapt. And only then do they make their move. Sign number 4. Your attention changes his mood. One of the quietest signs a man may be deeply obsessed with you has nothing to do with what he says. It has everything to do with how he changes. Not around everyone. Around you. Or more specifically, around your attention. Have you ever noticed how someone can seem completely different depending on whether you've replied to their message? One day they're cheerful, playful, and full of energy. The next day they seem unusually quiet. Nothing obvious happened, but one small thing changed. Your attention. When a man is simply interested, he enjoys hearing from you. It makes his day a little better. But when he's becoming deeply obsessed, your attention starts carrying much more weight than that. It begins to affect how he feels. Imagine this. You send him a simple message. Nothing romantic. Nothing dramatic. Just a quick good morning, or hope you're having a great day. Within minutes, his mood seems brighter. The conversation flows easily. He jokes more. He laughs more. He seems more relaxed. It's as though your words gave him a boost he didn't know he needed. Now imagine the opposite. A message goes unanswered for hours. Maybe you're busy. Maybe your phone is off. Maybe you simply forgot. To you, it isn't a big deal. Life gets busy, but to someone who's constantly thinking about you, those hours can feel much longer. He starts wondering if he said something wrong. He rereads old conversations. He checks his phone more often than he wants to admit. When you finally reply, everything seems normal again. Almost instantly. It's not that you're controlling his emotions on purpose. It's that your attention has become unusually important to him. Another thing you may notice is how quickly his energy changes when you're together. When you're engaged in the conversation, he's fully present. He smiles more. His body language becomes more relaxed. He seems excited just to spend time with you. But if you become distracted, if your attention shifts somewhere else, his energy quietly changes too. He may become quieter, less playful, less confident. He doesn't always complain about it. He simply feels the difference. That's because attention means more than conversation to someone who's emotionally invested. To him, it's reassurance. It's proof that he still matters in your world. Sometimes you'll notice this in very small ways. You compliment him, and he'll remember it for days. You laugh at one of his jokes, and he'll bring that same playful energy the next time he sees you. You thank him for something simple, and he seems genuinely happy about it. Small moments have a surprisingly big impact. Because when someone is constantly thinking about another person, even tiny signs of approval begin to feel meaningful. On the other hand, a lack of attention can affect him just as strongly. Maybe you seem distracted during a conversation. Maybe your replies become shorter than usual. Maybe you cancel plans because something unexpected came up. Most people would understand and move on. But someone who's deeply emotionally focused on you may quietly wonder if something has changed between you. Again, this doesn't mean he'll always say it out loud. In fact, many men don't. Instead, you notice it through their behavior. They're a little quieter, a little more thoughtful. Maybe they pull back for a short time while trying to figure out what's going on. Now, it's important to remember something. Everyone enjoys feeling appreciated. Everyone likes getting attention from people they care about. That alone doesn't mean someone is obsessed. The difference is how much their emotional state depends on it. If one reply from you can brighten his entire day, if one period of silence leaves him unusually discouraged, if your reactions consistently shape the way he feels, then your presence may have become far more important to him than he realizes. This is why emotional dependence can be such a hidden sign. It doesn't always appear through dramatic declarations of love. It often appears in quiet emotional shifts. A smile that arrives the moment you text. A silence that follows when you disappear for a while. A visible sense of relief when the conversation starts again. These changes are easy to miss because they're rarely spoken about. They're felt. And that's exactly what makes them so powerful. At the same time, it's worth remembering that healthy relationships are built on balance. It's natural to enjoy someone's attention. It's natural to miss someone when they're not around. But no one should depend entirely on another person's attention to feel happy or secure. The strongest relationships are created when two people enjoy each other's presence without losing themselves in the process. So if you notice that your attention seems to have an unusually strong effect on his mood, don't focus on one single moment. Look at the pattern. Because sometimes, the clearest sign that someone can't stop thinking about you isn't found in the words they say. It's found in the way your attention quietly changes their entire day. Sign number 5. He tries to become part of your world. One of the strongest signs a man may be deeply obsessed with you isn't that he tries to pull you into his world. It's that he quietly starts stepping into yours. Without you asking. Without making a big announcement. It happens little by little. Almost so naturally that you may not notice it at first. Maybe one day you mention a favorite TV show. A week later he tells you he's started watching it. Not because it was already on his list, but because you talked about it. Or perhaps you tell him about a hobby you've always enjoyed. Suddenly he's asking questions about it. He wants to understand why you like it so much. He becomes curious about something he never cared about before. Because when someone becomes deeply focused on another person, it's not just the person they're interested in. They also become interested in the things that person loves. Imagine meeting someone who talks passionately about traveling. You might not immediately care about every place they visited, but if you care deeply about them, you naturally become curious. You ask questions. You want to understand what excites them. Not because you're pretending, because their happiness starts becoming interesting to you. The same thing often happens here. He doesn't just want to know you. He wants to know what makes you. You may also notice that he remembers your favorite places. If you mention a cafe you love, he suddenly wants to visit it. If you talk about a park where you enjoy walking, he becomes interested in going there too. It's not always about the place itself. It's about feeling closer to your world. Another quiet sign is that he begins learning about the things you enjoy, even when you're not around. Maybe you've mentioned your favorite singer. The next time you talk, he already knows a few songs. Perhaps you spoke about a sport you enjoy watching. Now he understands enough to have a conversation about it. He isn't trying to become someone else. He's trying to understand a bigger part of your life. Because every new thing he learns gives him another way to connect with you. Sometimes this even happens without words. You post a photo from a place you like visiting. Weeks later, he casually mentions he's been there too. You recommend a book. Months later, he tells you he finally read it. Little by little, your interests start becoming familiar to him. Another thing you may notice is how often he seems to appear where your life naturally happens. Maybe he joins the same activities. Maybe he attends events you mentioned. Maybe he becomes more involved in places you already spend time. Now, this doesn't mean he should invade your privacy or show up where he isn't welcome. Healthy interest always respects boundaries. The point is much simpler than that. When someone enjoys being around you, they naturally look for more opportunities to share experiences. Instead of waiting for rare moments to see you, they gently move closer to the spaces where your life already exists. Over time, something interesting happens. Your conversations become easier, but because you now have more things in common. The movie you both watched, the music you both know, the places you've both visited, the hobbies you've both experienced. The more connected your worlds become, the easier it feels to stay connected with each other. Now, it's important to understand that this doesn't always mean obsession. In healthy relationships, people naturally influence one another. Couples often discover new foods together. Friends introduce each other to new hobbies. Families share traditions. Learning about someone else's interests is a normal part of getting close. The difference is consistency. Does he repeatedly show genuine curiosity about the things that matter to you? Does he remember what excites you? Does he make an effort to understand your world without being asked? If the answer is yes, it often shows that you occupy much more space in his thoughts than you realize. Because when someone is deeply emotionally invested, your happiness starts feeling important to them. The things that make you smile suddenly become worth learning about. The places that matter to you begin to matter to them too. Not because they have to, because they want another connection to you. Another conversation. Another shared experience. Another reason to feel close. In many ways, this is one of the quietest signs of all. There are no dramatic speeches. No grand declarations. Just small choices made over time. Watching the shows you recommended. Listening to the songs you love. Learning about the things that bring you joy. Stepping gently into your world, one small piece at a time. Because sometimes, the clearest sign that someone can't stop thinking about you isn't that they ask you to enter their life. It's that they quietly start building a place for themselves in yours. Sign number 6. He pulls away, then comes back stronger. This next sign is probably the one that confuses the most women. In fact, it's the reason many people walk away from someone who may have cared much more than they realized. Here's what happens. Everything seems to be going well. You're talking regularly. He's making an effort. The conversations are fun. He seems interested. Then, almost out of nowhere, he becomes quiet. The messages slow down. He isn't reaching out as much. He seems a little more distant than before. Naturally, your first thought might be, he's losing interest. After all, that's what most people believe. Less communication must mean fewer feelings, right? Not always. Sometimes, the opposite is happening. Sometimes a man pulls back not because he feels less, but because he feels too much. That may sound strange, but think about it. Have you ever cared about someone so much that you became afraid of saying the wrong thing? Afraid of looking too eager? Afraid of getting hurt? The stronger the feelings became, the more careful you became. Many people have experienced that without even realizing it. When emotions grow stronger, they can become overwhelming. Instead of moving forward with confidence, some people suddenly hesitate. Not because they don't care, because they care more than they expected. Imagine standing at the edge of a swimming pool. Putting one foot in feels easy. Jumping all the way in feels much more frightening. Feelings can work the same way. As long as everything feels casual, there's little to lose. But once someone realizes, I really don't want to lose this person, everything suddenly feels more important. Their words, their actions, even small conversations. Instead of acting naturally, they begin overthinking. Sometimes that overthinking creates silence. Not because interest disappeared, because fear showed up. Fear of rejection. Fear of saying the wrong thing. Fear of looking too desperate. Fear of caring more than the other person. So they step back, not forever, just long enough to sort through the emotions they're trying to understand. This quiet period often confuses women. From the outside, It looks like distance. But inside, there may be an emotional battle taking place. One part of him wants to move closer. The other part wants to protect himself. Those two feelings can exist at the same time. And when they do, people often become inconsistent. One day they're warm and engaged. The next day they're quiet and hard to read. Then something interesting happens. After some time passes, he comes back. Not with less interest, with even more. The messages become more frequent again. He starts making plans. He asks more questions. He seems more excited to talk than before. It's almost as if the quiet period never happened. This pattern surprises many women. They think, if he really liked me, he would have stayed consistent. In a perfect world, maybe that's true. But people aren't perfect. Human emotions are messy. Sometimes people need time to understand what they're feeling before they know how to express it. That doesn't excuse poor communication or disappearing for weeks without explanation. Healthy relationships still require honesty and respect. But short periods of uncertainty don't always mean someone's feelings have faded. Sometimes they simply mean those feelings have become more serious. Now, it's important not to misunderstand this sign. Not every man who pulls away is secretly obsessed. Sometimes people genuinely lose interest. Sometimes they're busy. Sometimes they're dealing with personal challenges that have nothing to do with you. That's why it's dangerous to judge someone based on one period of silence. Instead, look at what happens afterward. Does he come back with genuine effort? Does he make time for you again? Does he continue showing interest through his actions? Or does he disappear over and over without any real intention of building a relationship? The pattern tells you much more than one quiet moment ever could. The biggest mistake many women make is assuming silence always means the story is over. Sometimes it does. But sometimes silence is simply the space where someone is trying to understand feelings they weren't expecting to have. Because when emotions become stronger, they often become scarier too. The possibility of rejection feels more real. The fear of losing someone feels greater. And for some people, the first response isn't to move closer. It's to pause. Then, once they've gathered the courage, they return with even more certainty than before. That's why this sign is so often misunderstood. What looks like losing interest on the outside may actually be someone quietly struggling with feelings that have become much bigger than they know how to handle. And sometimes, the silence wasn't the end of the story. It was simply the moment before they found the courage to come back. Sign number 7. He starts making decisions with you in mind. The final sign is the quietest of them all. Because it isn't something he says. It isn't even something he plans. It simply starts happening. Little by little, without realizing it, he begins making decisions that include you. Have you ever noticed someone who suddenly starts saying things like, "We should try that restaurant someday. You'd love this place. We should watch that together." At first, those words don't seem important. They're just casual comments. But listen closely. There's one small word that keeps appearing. Not I. Not maybe someday. That's because when someone becomes deeply emotionally invested, their mind naturally begins placing you inside their future. Not years from now. Just the next weekend, the next concert, the next vacation, the next funny movie they want to watch. Without thinking about it, they stop imagining experiences alone. They start imagining them with you. Imagine walking through a bookstore. You see a novel. Your first thought isn't, "I'd enjoy reading that. She'd probably love this." Or maybe you're planning a trip. Before choosing a destination, you suddenly wonder, would she enjoy going there? That's a subtle but meaningful shift, because your decisions are no longer centered only around yourself. Someone else has quietly become part of the picture. You may notice this in small ways. He saves a funny video because he wants to show you later. He sees your favorite dessert and immediately thinks of you. He hears a song and says, "You'd like this." He walks past a place you've always wanted to visit, and his first thought is, "I should bring her here someday." None of these moments are dramatic. In fact, he may never even tell you about most of them, but they reveal something important. You're beginning to occupy space in the future he's imagining. Here's the interesting part. He probably isn't trying to do this. It happens naturally. When someone matters enough, your brain starts connecting them to everyday decisions without asking permission. One choice becomes another. One plan becomes another, until thinking about them becomes part of your routine. Now, it's important to keep this in perspective. People can imagine doing things with someone they like without being obsessed. That's perfectly normal. The difference is consistency. Does he regularly include you when he talks about future plans? Does he naturally think about what you'd enjoy? Does he make choices that quietly consider your happiness, even when you're not there? If so, it may be because you've become much more than someone he enjoys talking to. You've become someone he automatically includes in the life he's building. And when that begins to happen, something important has changed. You're no longer just part of his conversations. You're becoming part of his decisions. Because in the end, someone who's deeply emotionally invested doesn't just think about you when you're together. They think about you when you're making choices, when they're planning tomorrow, when they're imagining next month, when they're deciding what matters. And perhaps that's the clearest sign of all. Not that he can't stop thinking about you, but that he can no longer picture his future without instinctively making room for you. So let's take one final look at the signs we've uncovered. He remembers the little things everyone else forgets. He always finds a reason to stay connected. He watches before he acts. Your attention quietly changes his mood. He begins stepping into your world. Sometimes he pulls away because his feelings overwhelm him. And eventually, he starts making decisions with you in mind. Notice what all of these signs have in common. None of them are loud. None of them require dramatic declarations of love. They appear in small choices, quiet habits, tiny moments that most people overlook. That's why they're so easy to miss. But remember this: no single sign proves that someone is obsessed. Real emotions are far more complex than one behavior. The most reliable clue is always the pattern. When several of these signs appear consistently over time, and they're paired with respect, honesty, and healthy boundaries, they may reveal someone who's become deeply emotionally invested in you. If you recognized several of these signs in someone you know, I'd love to hear which one stood out to you the most. Leave it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.